Hi, it's Dennis Daly. Were you alive on this date, November 22nd, 1963, the day John Kennedy was killed? Well, let's go back now to Dealey Plaza, a report I filed shortly before the 50th anniversary.
Hi, and thanks again, everybody. I came here to Dealey Plaza in Dallas to document a few things in advance of the 50th anniversary of President Kennedy's assassination. And what I saw here brought back some gut-wrenching memories. But I'm also seeing some things here I don't understand. Street people masquerading as tour guides, passing out, selling literature that calls all of this a hoax. The sidewalks aren't very well marked, and you get the impression that instead of preserving the memory of a tragedy, they're allowing people to create a circus here.
And that circus has been created with hucksterism. Tourists still visit the grassy knoll, but you don't need a big sign shoved into the ground to tell us this is the grassy knoll. And notice when I was doing a stand-up, standing in the area Abraham Zapruder stood when he shot the Kennedy film, back behind me was a man with a loudspeaker, an easel, and a microphone. This guy was selling a book saying that a conspiracy killed Kennedy, and the tourists were eating it up. No, Dealey Plaza should look as it did in 1963. Notice the pavement. You see the X's? One of them shows where Kennedy was first hit by a bullet, and the other one shows where the limo was when he was hit by the second bullet. Those were painted there by hucksters. They're bogus. Dealey Plaza itself should look like this, remembering when the presidential limo went this way, turned left, and then tragedy struck at this point, when a man in the Texas School Book Depository window shot and killed John Fitzgerald Kennedy. But now, it's a circus here.
I'm on the 7th floor of the Texas School Book Depository in downtown Dallas, looking out the same area that Lee Harvey Oswald saw when he was one floor below me on that fateful day. It's absolutely amazing the kind of view you get looking out of the windows from this angle. And there's something really interesting here on the 7th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, and it's this replica, this miniature, if you will, of this building. It was put together for a movie, and when they ended up filming, they gave it to the museum. The window we looked out of is right here. And this is the window down here on 6 from which Lee Harvey Oswald fired the shots.
And one other thing you see when you look and see what Oswald saw is that the Kennedy motorcade was well within his ability to shoot as a sharpshooter, the rating he attained when he was a U.S. Marine.
Here on the edge of Dealey Plaza in Dallas is this concrete wall. It predates November 22nd, 1963. And on this promontory, a wealthy Dallas businessman named Abraham Zapruder stood to use his new film camera to film the presidential parade. President Kennedy was shot right about there. The first microseconds or so of that shooting were obscured by a sign that used to be right there. The sign is not there any longer. Now, there is speculation, though, that the president was not shot by someone in the Texas School Book Depository, but shot by someone on the grassy knoll. And unfortunately today, that area behind me is cluttered by a lot of people masquerading as tour guides who aren't.
Abraham Zapruder was an immigrant who became a successful clothing manufacturer. He used his new camera to photograph the JFK motorcade. Shortly after turning it over to the FBI, he was interviewed on Dallas TV and became an instant celebrity of sorts. And had Zapruder not been there shooting film, our perceptions of the Kennedy assassination might be quite different.
So the next time you see the Zapruder film, picture a man standing right here shooting a film that would become legendary. We're at the Texas Theater about 5 miles from downtown Dallas, and this is where Lee Harvey Oswald was caught. But before that, he had committed his second killing that day. In a neighborhood back here, he was stopped by Officer J.D. Tippit. He killed the officer and then fled to this building.
But somehow Oswald made it from Dealey Plaza down here to the Oak Cliff neighborhood and to the Texas Theater. He stopped by his apartment, changed clothes, and got a gun. Along the way, Officer J.D. Tippit stopped him. He pulled the gun and fired 3 times into Tippit's chest and then finished him off. He then ran here to the Texas Theater. The spot where he sat is still marked. He was eventually captured and dragged out, and the media attention of the world suddenly focused on this theater. It would be 49 years later that Tippit's widow would help unveil a plaque at the spot where her late husband became the second person that day to be shot by Lee Harvey Oswald. And for many, J.D. Tippit has been forgotten in history.
It's a little bit of Americana on a side street 5 miles from downtown Dallas. This is where Lee Harvey Oswald was caught. On November 22nd, 1963, there was a different sign here, but it was still the emergency section of Parkland Hospital, and the President of the United States was in there dying. And for part of that afternoon, this ER area was the focus of the world.
And while today Parkland may seem like any other big city hospital, spruced up, looking a lot brighter than it did in 1963, the focus of the world was here, as media reports got dribs and drabs of good and then bad and good and bad news. More and more police, more and more spectators started arriving. Inside, the best the hospital had to offer came to the ER. Outside, people openly wept. Finally, Lyndon Johnson was seen being escorted from the hospital. Finally, he would get to Air Force One and be sworn in as the newest president of the United States.
Yes, Parkland Hospital. Another one of those names, another one of those places that became part of legend, part of the story of November 22nd, 1963. We're across from Dallas Love Field, at one time a huge hub for the airlines here in Dallas before they built Dallas-Fort Worth International, the headquarters of Southwest Airlines. And this is the airport where John Kennedy started his last day on Earth.
Yes, for John Kennedy and Jackie landed here on a short flight from Fort Worth to spend the day here mending fences. But when that day was over, Kennedy's casket would fly out of Love Field on Air Force One. This field goes back to World War I. It's been an important part of Dallas since the teens. It grew into a huge airport, serving the Dallas area, the 8th busiest in the nation. But in the 70s, when the bigger-than-big Dallas-Fort Worth airport was built, all the airlines left. And then some enterprising people got together and formed Southwest Airlines, realizing that an airline that wasn't in existence when everybody moved didn't have to play by the rules. Southwest has saved Dallas Love Field.
And for those of us who remember the events of November 22nd, 1963, we will always remember Dallas Love Field. This is the doorway that Ruby went into to shoot Lee Harvey Oswald. And many of us saw it happen live on national television.
2 days after John Kennedy was shot by Lee Harvey Oswald, Oswald was being moved into the area behind this door, but the door was open that day. A flood of lawmen, reporters, and a live TV crew were on hand to see Oswald, as he was to have entered a car to be taken from police headquarters here to the county jail. Ruby was no stranger to police. A successful nightclub owner, he knew many on the force. As all eyes were on Oswald, Ruby simply walked toward him, brandishing a gun. No one noticed until it was too late. Pandemonium ensued, and there it was live on national TV. I was watching and couldn't believe what I was seeing. Ruby would later say that he eliminated Oswald so that Jackie Kennedy and the children would not have to live through the events of November 22nd for a second time had Oswald gone to trial.
It's funny how things get lost in history. This ramp played a significant role in the Kennedy assassination story. And today it's just an entrance. Pardon me, do not enter. It's just an exit.
And like so many other artifacts of November 1963, it has been blurred with the passage of time. After the events in Dallas, the city wanted to hide. It was bearing a shame for an event that was not of its making. But as the eyes of the world refocus here 50 years later, I can't see that Dallas has done much to escape what might become another wave of embarrassment. I only know I came here to relive that memory of when I was sitting in a high school classroom and saw the nuns begin to sob and heard the church bells ringing on a cold and rainy November day in my childhood. I'm Dennis Daly. For some of us, it is the day we will always remember. I'm Dennis Daly.